Hi, I'm Zoe Starr, and welcome to my show, Paranormal Extraction. Today, yes, we have her on yet again. Very, very well known in Canada. We have on Jordan Stark with Sisters of Light. And what are we going to be talking about today? Well, something that is much needed for all of us. And I think we're all asking the question right now. What spiritual warfare and spiritual protection? Like, what is it all about? Well, we have an expert on today, and that is Jordan, and we're going to go find out. Jordan, we have you on again. Oh, and I'm so excited to have you on, all the way from Canada. And wow, we're going to be talking about something pretty heavy duty today. And so, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you're about and where to find you? Because I know you have some great classes to take, and you're pretty much an expert in this field. And I always say to you, you look like a little baby. To me, beautiful baby, but you're highly intelligent and knowledgeable about this subject. And most people that look as young as you are, people don't trust or think can be. And the beautiful thing is you are. So tell us some more.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on, Zoe. And
Sure.
hi, everyone, whether you're new or returning. My name is Jordan Start. I'm from Start Sisters of Light, and I would describe myself to be a spirit rescue specialist, which just means I've done a lot of training in attachment removal, house clearings, rescue mediumship, and protection. Also a
Mm-hmm.
demonologist. And I also work as an entity removal specialist because I don't just deal with demonic entities or earthbounds. Many other types of intelligent consciousness often finds its way into people's energy systems and in their homes. So I remove those beings from people's energy or from their homes. I also am a coach and instructor at the Spirit Rescue Center for Psychic Studies, which is pretty much a one stop shop for individuals who are embarking on their spiritual journey, whether they do psychic readings from reading from the third dimensional, whether they do mediumship, connecting with higher frequency, or those who are like myself, called to do a lot of spiritual protection work, which just means we go into the lower frequencies a little bit because our job is to protect souls, whether they be in the living or who have passed.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a mouthful. You
It's a
guys,
lot.
you guys, I'm telling you, I mean, that's a lot. And some of the stories that you've told me are like, I mean, that have happened in the past to you. A lot of your own personal experience is also,
I as a soul wanted to learn from hands-on experience first, and then I learned the lesson afterwards to get the understanding of the what's kind of happening behind the scenes. So lots of
well,
hands-on experience.
yeah, well, that has to happen, I think, as an individual for someone to go through these things and to be able to teach about it. I mean, if you haven't gone through it yourself, I mean, just for me on what you're speaking about, our topic today, um, you have to. Otherwise, there isn't that, you're not, you just, that connection isn't going to be there, that absolute belief isn't going to be there. So, anyways, I'm really grateful to have you on today. So let's get on to our subject. It's pretty heavy duty. And I know you have a lot to say. So I'm going to go ahead and let you start wherever you feel comfortable today. I trust
Yeah, of
you.
course.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Well, let's see where spirit takes us, because I find every time I try to come up with a plan, my guides and spirit brings me in another
Mm-hmm.
direction. So
Yeah,
we'll just see where we're going to
sure.
kind of go today.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
love the fact that you mentioned spiritual warfare because we've been in one for a very long time and we're going to continue to be in one because, our consciousness is shifting, the frequency of the earth is shifting, and we're going to a higher degree of spiritual knowledge and awareness. And I always like to let people know, the spirit world is very political. And as we raise our frequency, there's certain energies that are no longer going to be able to stay here. It's not as comfortable for them anymore. And they need to leave, they need to vacate. And those energies typically are at a much denser frequency. And
Mm-hmm.
denser just means Typically, that they would come across as what we would see as malicious, so intending to cause harm, a little more darker, a little bit nastier, that kind of thing. And so I find as we're going through this transformation and this frequency shift as a planet, as a consciousness, that, as I said, those energies can no longer remain. And so, in a way, they're kind of fighting for their life a little bit. So, we're
Yeah.
going to see an increase in activity from darker energies. And it's not, this. My guides kind of explained it to me as you need to recognize it as people that are fighting for their life. What would you do if you're in a position where you were no longer allowed to stay in your home? People fight. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not good versus evil. My guys kind of tried to take me out of that. They said it's survival and having a level of empathy towards that. However, it doesn't mean that you need to accept or allow those types of energies to impact you or influence you. And that's where the idea of stepping into your power kind of comes into play. I know for myself, when I first started opening up and I was getting attacked left, right, and center, I went to other individuals in the spiritual, paranormal, religious. I kind of went everywhere looking for answers, looking for support.
Mm-hmm.
And I constantly heard you need to step into your power. And I'm the kind of person that I'm like, great, that's awesome. How do I do that? And
Exactly.
like,
Right.
that's great, but I'm getting attacked. When you're attacked, you're vulnerable. You're scared, you're worried, you're fearful, you're feeling helpless, hopeless,
Yes.
like all those feelings. And so I'm like, that's great in theory, but like, how do I get from where I'm at to where I'm in my power? And no one really had an answer for me. They just said, well, just tell them to leave. And I went, well, I've already done that. So what do I do now? We'll send some prayers. I did that. What do I do? Surround yourself in white light. That didn't work for me either.
Right.
It made it 10 times worse.
Right.
Um, it made it worse. So a part of what I kind of wanted to talk to about folks today is not saying one way is right or wrong, but understanding that each and every soul has their own way of doing things. So I like to offer people an alternative perspective of a level of understanding about the law of free will and how really the core and the foundation of being able to protect yourself from energetic and spiritual attack is doing that internal healing work. And that's what I was thinking about for today. How does that sound for you?
Yeah. I just, well, there's so much you just said that resonates with me 100%. I mean, a lot, I've had another person just on a while ago speaking about it, but um, there is definitely a denser energy, and people are really scared, okay, of these energies. I mean, all you have to do is, a lot of people don't like TikTok or anything like that, but if you're on the social media platforms or whatever that you're doing, you are going to see a lot of people that are valid. Okay, I'm not talking weirdos or anything like that that are, you know, Billy Carson is really good. I mean, he talks about the Anunnaki and stuff like that, but they all have their different perspectives. But even people that are just very professional, and they're not, I mean, they're not crazy or nuts or anything. They are talking about this stuff. They are saying on there, they're having their whole video or whatever they're doing about how afraid. Like one of them that I just posted was of someone who's so scared, who just said, do you notice that there is something really strange going on? I mean, these people are serious. They're like, is this happening for you too? I mean, they're talking about, why am I going to my job? Why am I just trying to feed my family? Why can't I, there's no hope for us anymore in the future. Jordan, it's really scary. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
And I see
Absolutely.
hopelessness. All right. Um, and like that one guy that was saying this, you know, of course I said to, back to him, I said, yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. It is weird, but these people don't know. And what you're here today to do is teach them. And that's, I think, what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's, it's interesting because, I find oftentimes we're having like these waves of people awakening, right? Starting to come to an understanding. Met a lot of people who are highly educated folks, doctors,
Yes.
psychologists, psychiatrists, who are now stepping into more energy work because their consciousness has shifted. And I find through, big waves of change, whether it be through war, whether it be through famine, whether it be through the pandemic, for example, a lot of people are waking up. And that's going to continue. And I even look at the state of the economy. I don't know how it is for you guys in the States, but up here, people can barely afford basic necessities. And
Jordan,
I ask Spirit,
it's so bad here.
mm-hmm,
This generation here, because I go out and I talk to younger people. They don't care about owning a home anymore. They don't care about having kids. What they want to do is travel. That's what they
mm,
want. 9 times out of
yeah,
10, all I'm hearing is travel. They don't want, they
yeah,
want the lowest, 5 bedroom house to rent out to five different people and to work and then travel. That's it,
exactly.
Jordan.
Mm-hmm,
And no more kids. Nothing.
mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a state of helplessness with that, right? The world that we live in now, economically and socially, is not the same as it was 10 years ago. It's not the same as it was 15 or 20 years ago. It's evolving and it's changing. And it's interesting because the spirit world pretty much told me exactly what was going to happen 5 years ago and this year. And I said, okay, well, why? And they said, well, it's planned. And I said, okay, well, why are you guys planning this? Like, this sounds horrible. Like, I work in social services. Like, these are my clients that are not going to be able to afford housing, that are not going to be able to afford
Oh my
food,
God.
transportation, like the necessities. And they said, no one doesn't grow unless they're under pressure. People become complacent when things are easy. So they said,
Wow.
how do we as a collective shift? They said, you guys have to change. You guys have to grow. You guys learn under conflict. I think about even just like social justice, why some things have slowly shifted over the years. Oftentimes, when I talk to individuals, I said, any rights that we have, particularly, let's just say as women, as an example, we had to fight for. That came through injustice, it came through pressure, it came through us saying something needs to change. And so I think the spirit world is, at least from what they told me, is that they said, you guys as a consciousness are shifting, which means things have to be under pressure to realize what is important in your life versus what isn't. Again, using the pandemic as an example, I oftentimes people say, before my job was my life, now my family is my life, me being happy is my life. Right. So we as a consciousness are shifting because of the pressure. And at the same time, with that pressure, we're also more vulnerable to psychic and spiritual attack because we are at a lower frequency or vibration. So I always like to explain it to folks, as everyone always talks about in the spiritual, metaphysical, paranormal community, raise your frequency, raise your vibration, be happy, be joyful. And again, depending on your role, if you're a protector like me, it isn't going to matter because you're naturally going to vibrate low. Totally okay. But I always ask, well, why do I have to do that? Like, what is it so important about that makes me more less susceptible to attack? And no one really had an answer. So I asked my guides, I said, well, what is it? And they kind of explained it to me like a high rise building. So they said, let's just say you naturally are on the fifth floor of this building. You're going to interact with people on the fifth floor. When something happens in life that brings you to a state of fear, sadness, depression, anxiety, it slowly lowers your frequency. Well, now you're on a different level. And so what ends up happening is now you are now able to interact with, and more importantly, other things that are at that lower frequency are now able to interact with you more. So now you're going to see more experiences. And what's a little bit scary with that is oftentimes, maybe you're now on the second floor, but the real dark stuff is in the basement. So you'll
Mm-hmm.
have energies on that second floor that's job is to provoke you. Their job is to bring you to that state of fear. So they'll start poking. Again, this is where I want to talk about our wounding in order to lower your frequency even more. So the big bad one that's in the basement can now jump onto you and get you. So a big part, and it's the
Wow.
foundation and focus of spiritual protection has to be your own inner healing.
Okay, that's it. Yes. Okay, I agree with that. So, okay, Jordan, this is my question. People don't know what to do. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
let's just give
Yep.
them, I always just want, even if it's just one person, to get something out of what we're talking about today. And even me, I always get tons from you. Okay. When we talk. But like one thing, okay, let's just say the same guy I was talking about, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a spiritual foundation. Like his channel is not about
Mm-hmm.
that whatsoever. And he's just all kinds of weird things are happening to him and
Mm-hmm.
around him in the world, and he's shifting, and notices the economy, and he's talking about that, and like the 99-cent store and how it kept him alive, and he if he didn't have that, it's gone now, so what are these people going to do? He's concerned for other people. What He's not spiritual, okay, and he's going through all this, and he's having now weird dreams, okay, about Holocaust or something like that,
Yeah.
D-Day. And so where does someone like that's, and then the next guy is on there weirding out, going, everything is so weird. Why am I doing this? And they have like,
Yeah.
I don't know, 1 million followers. Well, where does someone like that start?
Mm-hmm.
They there's
Yeah, of course.
they're putting it out to the public. The public is responding in huge masses. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So all those people, Jordan, all right, which is the big part of our planet right now, where are those people going to grasp on? What one thing could they grasp on to start whatever process you're doing of the healing part in order to stay out of that basement level horrific energy? I call it demonic
Of
energy.
course. Yep.
There's my
And that's the
question.
thing, right?
There's my
There's
question.
high and low and everything, right? So obviously, demonics are going to be, really, really, really nasty. But you've got ETs. There's high level ones that are beautiful, high vibration. There's lower level ones too. There's
Mm-hmm.
multidimensionals that are high level and low level. And so I find the most important thing for getting into the wounding is again that idea of the law of free will. Because it is a law that is in dimension for us here in the third dimension. And so essentially, all that really says is that we are the authority of our own energy. We are the master. We get to decide who has access to our energy.
Hmm.
And this supports the law of free will because essentially just says we get to decide what do we experience versus what do we not. And so by calling in that support, you're able to kind of set the boundaries, set the rules. What happens oftentimes, though, is people forget their own divinity, right? They forget that we are the keepers of the third dimension. We are in a physical body.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a physical world. We are responsible for ourselves. We're responsible for the planet. We are responsible for the animals. We are responsible for this frequency. This is our domain. And so, because of that, because we are the keepers of this dimension, we have the power here. Anything that's in the spirit world does not, because this is our domain. This is our home to defend. And people forget that. And it's not only their fault, because we come down to this world, we do forget everything that we already knew from the spirit world.
Yeah.
But also you're going to have a lot of energies that are going to come in and try to manipulate you to forget that. Right? They will try to take you out of authority through tactics, oftentimes through scare tactics, right? Because what happens energetically is, and what my guides kind of explained to me, they said entities of all different types, they don't understand your language. They said your planet has so many languages and they come from another language. They said, but the one thing that's transferable between all energies, no matter all frequencies, is the intention and the frequency of what you're saying.
Okay, so
And
what
I,
what what are you saying here then? You're saying that someone needs to understand that they are part of all of this, okay? And maybe in some way or shape or form, am I hearing they're creating this by not
to,
feeling that they're in their power or they're powerless, and that's why they
yeah,
can't pull out of it? Is that what I'm hearing?
and that's really hard to a degree, yes. Because I remember when I first started learning about the law of free will, I started getting really upset because I was like, you know what? When I was getting attacked, I said the right things. I said, get out of my house. You're not allowed in my space. You're allowed my energy. I was saying everything correctly. And so I went to my team and I said, why is this not working? And they said, you're saying the right words, but your frequency doesn't match. And they said, what you need to understand is frequency is the language, intention is the language. So if you're going into a space feeling fearful, feeling scared, they said, you're not taking on that authority, right? Because you're saying that you're not confident enough in your ability to enforce your intention.
That's
And I said, well,
pretty
that's great. What do I do to be able to do that?
right.
How do I get
Right.
my frequency up
Yep.
so I can actually project out what I'm speaking so they are in alignment? So whatever energy is coming at me understands the rules.
Yes, that was my next question.
Mm-hmm. And so what my guides kind of explained to me, they said it's almost impossible to fully protect yourself if you're going into a territory where you're distressed. And so I said, okay, explain more. And they said, when your own traumas are being poked and mocked, which will consistently happen when you're dealing with lower frequencies, they said you are affected of it in some capacity, whether it be emotionally or whether it be energetically. And now you're stepping out of your power. And so I asked them, I said, so what do I do then? And they said, you need to do that internal work. And so I said, okay, well, how does that work?
There you
And so they
go.
started giving me a little bit of a breakdown of what kind of happens to us. And so when we experience a level of trauma, and trauma doesn't have to be something that what we would consider to be a big trauma, so like a domestic violence, sexual violence, being in a car crash, death of a loved one, stuff like that, what we would understand to be something deeply scary that's going to bring us to a lower frequency. They explained to me, they said trauma has three different elements. There's an element of big emotions, not a lot of control, and a sense of safety being compromised. And safety doesn't just have to be physical, it can be mental, it can be emotional, it can be spiritual. There's different levels of safety. And so, what actually happens when you're in a situation where there's a traumatic incident? And I always like to remind people your entire childhood is traumatic because you're going through new experiences. And when something's new, it's scary. It's
Yeah,
overwhelming.
we're
Kids don't
always
learn.
yeah, we all have trauma. Trauma. Help. Okay, yeah. All right, so we
We
got
all
that.
got it.
Yeah, we all have it. Yeah.
We all got it.
On any kind of level, everyone has different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you're saying at this point in time that we're at the trauma level, okay,
Mm-hmm.
of some kind. So let's take
Yep.
it from there. What were you going to say
Mm-hmm.
next?
Yeah,
I
of
can't.
course.
I can't
So
remember.
when we have an experience that brings up that trauma response, the part of our brain actually that processes language, cognitive processing, so being able to psychologically think through something that's able to put words to an experience actually shuts down. And there's another part of your brain that comes more online, which is responsible for your survival based responses. So oftentimes we would know that as our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. What also is really interesting is that when your brain switches into that gear, the part of your brain that also holds emotion activates. And which is why oftentimes, at least in the therapy world, we understand trauma doesn't sit in processing. It doesn't sit in the part of our brain where we get the story. It sits in our brain with our emotions. Which is also why when oftentimes we're triggered, we experience a very high emotional response. And so I asked my team, I said, well, what does that have to do with spiritual protection? What does that have to do with it? And they explained to me, they said, well, when you are being attacked psychically or spiritually, or again, you have these experiences in your lifetime, they said, remember, everything has a frequency, everything has an intention. So that experience now sits in your frequency. I've had a lot of experiences of sexual violence and domestic violence. When I first started opening up, every spirit that I started talking to died by a domestic case, had experienced some level of sexual violence, had some concerns with suicidality, that kind of thing, because it sat in my frequency.
Okay,
Even
so
though these spirits didn't know me, they were able to feel a comfort and familiarity with me because of that.
they were attracted to you
They were
because
attracted to me because it sits in my frequency.
okay, so what if it's sitting in your frequency? Okay, and we have these different fears and traumas sitting in our
Mm-hmm.
frequency, and we want to do something about it. What are we going to do?
Mm-hmm. And when I asked my team, I said, what's important about that? And they said, well, think about it. They said, when you are being psychically or spiritually attacked, you have these in your frequency, which means, again, frequency is the universal language. They say anything that's kind of coming at you to cause harm, to cause concern, they can actually feel that frequency. They can understand more about you than you know about yourself. And not only that, they also understand the emotional responses that you had. So when you're psychically or spiritually attacked, oftentimes they'll throw things in your face that you thought you would have dealt with, and they'll poke the buttons and provoke the emotion in order
Mm-hmm.
to bring you to that state of fear, bring you to
Mm-hmm.
that state of feeling like you don't have control,
Mm-hmm.
feeling of helplessness. And it's not just this lifetime wounds, it's also past lifetime wounds because, again, it sits in your soul's frequency. First time I started getting attacked, I kept getting the image of my throat being slit, my family's throat being slit. There was something about throat slitting. And it wasn't until many years later that I learned my worst lifetime, the one that my soul had the most shame for, most regret over in that lifetime, I did a lot of slitting people's throats. So it was mocking me in my personal experience, but it was also mocking my soul. Again, to bring me into that lower frequency, to make me feel like I didn't have control. I didn't have the power because this thing knew me better than I knew myself.
Right. So how are we going to? Okay. So yeah, I mean, I understand a lot of what you're saying. Okay, because
Yeah.
I've been dealing with it my whole life too, just like you.
Mm-hmm.
Really, essentially my whole life. But
Yep.
uh, how I still don't see how I'm looking at the guy again, watching
Yeah.
this. Um, is that we're saying step into your power, okay, or whatever. What we're saying is that a lot of this is from the high level dragging us down to the lower level because of our traumatic experiences to keep us there so we don't spiritually evolve or feel comfortable of where we're going. Am I correct on that one?
Yep.
Okay.
That's exactly it.
Okay, so and in order to feel better, okay, instead of saying like these guys are, you know, everything is really weird. What is going on? I mean, I don't know if what's shifting or what's happening. They're listening to this. What is it? They're going to say, well, I don't, what are you talking about? Trauma, all this, none of this makes any sense. You know, I don't, I still don't know. I'm not going to go to a psychiatrist. No, I don't have any trauma. I'm telling you, I don't have any trauma. I don't want to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Screw you. The world is a crappy place to be.
It
Um,
is. It absolutely is.
so, someone like that looking in on this, what's your response?
My response is that, yes, the world is in a really crappy place, and there's only so much power we do have to create or shift social systems. Again, we can't control the housing market. We can't control the financial state of the world right now. However, and again, these types of occurrences will naturally put you into that state of stress. So, what I would say to folks is,
Yeah.
especially those who are open to the spirit world, because the moment you are opened up, the moment I always think of it as like a dark room and you are the light in the dark,
Uh huh.
you're gonna attract energies to you. And if we're stressed, if we're overwhelmed, if the world is in chaos right now, absolutely, your frequency is gonna again go down. So in order to protect yourself from rolling with the punches per se until things do start to slowly shift and become more comfortable in our society, you work on yourself. Because as I said, it's giving them less buttons to push at.
Right. So,
It shifts your frequency to be in more of a place of empowerment because you're not going to be in a place of empowerment when you have these experiences. And again, trauma is not, again, those what I like to call big T's, again, those sexual assault, domestic violence, those kind of things. It's when moments when you felt like you didn't have a lot of control, felt like there was a sense of safety, and safety can be mental and emotional, and you didn't know what was going to happen next. So there's a state of insecurity there. I don't care who you are on the planet, that is a universal human experience that we all have. And you'll know when you need to work through something when an energy's poking at you with it because they can see it. Now,
So,
that's not to say you need to go to a counselor because there's different where places that your energy in the wounding where it will sit. You've got your physical body, which you can do many modalities to work through that. There's EFT tapping, there's EMDR, there's different theories that you can kind of work with. There's the mental body, which is us being able to cognitively process. There's the emotional body, so again, where we hold our emotions. And there's also our karmic and spiritual. So oftentimes I find people who have done the most amount of healing have not just gone to a therapist because their therapy is going to really, most of the times, 99% of the time, address the psychological aspect, being able to mentally process
yes,
something and understand it.
absolutely.
But talk therapy doesn't release emotion.
No.
It doesn't. So you have to work through it in different levels. So
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes the most healed people I meet, and even for my own healing journey I can speak to, has been a collection of multiple modalities. I've done EFT to help release it from my body.
Mm-hmm.
I became a therapist. I went to therapy to cognitively process it. I went to energy healers who I asked my guides to you would be the best approach to guide me to, and they did, to folks who
Mm-hmm.
could help go into my emotional bodies and help me process things emotionally, but also could go into my karmic body, into my spiritual body, and start clearing things out with in combination with my guides.
Mm-hmm.
When I haven't been able to do that, when I didn't have the funds, because let's be honest, the world's tough right now financially, it's really tough. Always remember you have your guides there to help and support you. Ask them to bring you to the right person or have a conversation with them. It doesn't always have to be in meditation. You can always just talk to them verbally, like how I'm doing right now to you,
Mm-hmm.
and they will listen. And because again, you get to decide the experience that you have. You have free will. You are the one driving the boat here, not them. And if I always say, if you ask them if you've learned enough, and if not, can I learn this lesson in a different way? Because sometimes the type of experience they're trying to bring us to help provoke a wound to us, to help process it, release it, whatever way we need to. Sometimes it's really tough, and sometimes it can feel like impossible. So you can
Right.
always ask them to do it in a different way. The idea of working on your wounding is really to help you be able to really step into that empowerment of free will, because as I said, language is through frequency. So you can say the right words, but it's not going to be received, but your frequency doesn't lie, intention doesn't lie. So if you are worked through a lot of your stuff, you're empowered, I have a right to be here. Nothing can come near me unless I allow it. Being access to me and my energy is a privilege, it is a gift, and I get to decide who has access. When you're really able to sit in that and hold that and say, I know my power. I know I get to decide. I know I am the keeper of this dimension. I know about the law of free will. And that projects outwards. Things have to listen. You don't have a choice. And if they
So,
break the law of free will, then the spirit will come
okay,
down and
so
remove them for you.
can one just start with just what those words you just said?
Mm-hmm.
I really like that.
Absolutely.
That one thing I believe that people need to grasp onto is exactly what you just said. Do you
Absolutely.
remember what you just said? I don't. I mean, my
Mm-hmm.
mind starts going all over the place when I'm talking to you because, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't, whatever you just said, please say that again. That
Try to
was,
summarize it to the best of my ability.
okay,
It's
let's try it, Jordan.
all right. So frequency is language. No matter what you're dealing with across the spirit world, they can understand your frequency. So to step into your power, your frequency has to match your intention. When we have wounding that are still with us, our frequency naturally becomes lower. It puts us into a state of fear. It puts us into a state of not feeling confident with ourselves. When you can get to a place where you recognize that you are in power, you are in control, having access to you is a privilege, it is a gift. No one is entitled to that. And then you set your boundaries, because again, people often talk about boundaries. Boundaries with intensity of frequency and your intention. And that is one of the most things that keep you protected, because at the end of the day, you are divine. You are a soul in a human body, but you are one and connected with everything. You are connected with God, source,
Mm-hmm.
the creator, whatever it is. Access your own divinity, because that is where your power sits.
Yeah, I
knowing
really,
that you are enough and you're strong enough, and everything else is just a tool.
yeah, I think what was so powerful for me is that, you deserve to be here is kind of the statement I heard of that. You have
Hmm.
a right to
There we go.
be.
So you have a right
You
to
have
be
a
here. I need
right
to
to be
share that.
on this planet. And I
We're
have
the
a
keepers of this world. This is our world.
right. I
We're in,
mean,
we're in
so
charge here.
just, that to me is a good one, a good place to start. And I think even if you can just grasp on to those little words right there and just think about those words for maybe 2 weeks and allow things to start matching up with that, I think the individual would see a big change in their life. I really do. So, during this discussion today that we're having, I'm sure people are going to find that one spot that they hear that's going to give them what they need to start. I really do believe that. Okay. Because that one sentence you said to me was very powerful, yet to another person, it may not be. But maybe something else
Exactly.
that you have said during this has been. Because what we're talking about is pretty intense. Okay. We're talking about people start on textbook A. You're on like textbook, we did A, B, C, D. Now we're at, getting towards, just up and over the hill here, at the top, almost getting ready to come down the other side of textbooks. We're not even there. Okay. So we're talking about stuff that is going to implant something in someone to have this help them. That's how I feel about this.
Yeah, it's another perspective because, as I said, when I first started out, I said, "Well, how do I step into my power?" And no one had an answer for me. Didn't know what to do, and everywhere I looked, it was the same thing being regurgitated over and over and over again. I said, "Okay, but what's next?" Because I knew there was more, and that's when my guides came in and said, "This is what's next. This is what you need to do." And so I like to talk about this is because yes, it is more advanced. It's the next level up, and at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, you get to decide: do you want to stay at point one, or do you want to graduate up here with me at level two?
Right. And somehow, I mean, and we have the people too that really likes just staying on one. You
And
know,
that's okay.
yeah,
There is no shame in staying where you're comfortable and where you're ready. I truly believe every soul gets to decide what type of experience they're going to have. And who am I to say that one way is wrong versus another way has to be the only correct way?
yeah,
It's just an alternative perspective.
right.
Nothing wrong with it. There's a place for everyone here.
So, Jordan, so in your classes that you have, what's
Mm-hmm.
going on with those? I mean, if people want to find you or get more involved in what or resonate to you, like what's involved there, or what are you doing right now, or that someone could possibly look into on your website.
Of course. So
And
at the school that
that's
I'm involved with,
okay. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So at the school that I'm involved with, we take it very seriously again in recognizing emotional and mental conditioning. So we have programs that are for individuals wanting to do a lot of psychic development because that is really the foundation of everything
Hmm.
else. And psychic is just reading third dimensional energy. It's me reading you. It's why we might meet someone for the first time and say, what's up with them? There's nothing I don't like very much. That's you psychically reading their energy. So it's folks that kind of want to advance those skills and capabilities. For those who want to step into more mediumship based, so whether it be, connecting with guides, angels, loved ones, we have programs for that. And each of our programs are pretty advanced. They're not just the typical, well, here's your clairs, it's here's your clairs, how do you step into attention? How do you read energy? I know our psychic, I think in our advanced class, we talk about finding missing and murdered individuals or stepping into finding lost
Hmm.
objects. Like it's much more advanced. And a lot of this information was actually channeled down to us from the spirit world to say, hey, okay, you guys' consciousness is shifting. You guys are ready for more information. You guys can handle more responsibility. We've also got rescue mediumship, so those who connect with earthbound spirits as well as entities, because, again, your frequency is naturally lower, you're more seen by their energies.
So,
So if you
okay,
wanted,
yeah, but they can
it's
all,
a one-stop shop for everything, essentially, is what we're
yeah.
trying to make.
What I want to say though is that let's just say these energies that we've been talking about, okay, and they're feeling that they can't get rid of them. They can go to you for that.
Absolutely. They can find me on Stark Sisters of Light. If you've got anything dark and spooky, I'm more than happy and willing to step into it. That's
Dark and
at the end
spirit.
of the day, the thing that makes me the most happy in doing this work is having people feel safe again in their bodies and in their home and in their energies. And for their families, that is worth it for me. So
So
that's what I'm here for.
you also will go into their homes too, like,
Mm-hmm.
we all know about the paranormal, and some people don't
Yeah.
believe it. They can believe whatever they want. But you live in Canada, so do you do this remotely, like remotely viewing,
So
or
Yeah, just so depending on the case, so typically what I'll do is I'll actually get the homeowners, if it's a home, for example, or them, they'll send me a photo and I'll step into it and see kind of what's there, what's kind of going on. I'll talk to their guides, I'll talk to my guides, I'll talk to, whoever I need to. And then depending on the situation or scenario, some things need to be cleared in person. So I've traveled all over Canada and all over the US doing this work for folks. Typically, by the time people find me or my mentor or any major, we oftentimes work together. Typically, they've had about 5 or 6 people try to clear, and they haven't been able to. So we work in tandem, oftentimes, and we'll go together and clear the individual and clear their home, charge their energy, charge their space, set protection all around it to hopefully give them a much more easier experience.
yeah,
So
wow.
we're all over.
Now, what about counseling?
So counseling. So I mean, people can find typical counselors in their area. I also do spiritual counseling as well as again my mentor does as well. And so a lot of that is for folks who maybe have been under spiritual attack or have been for a long time and really kind of want to understand the why and how do we work through this so I don't have to have these experiences over and over again. So I
Right,
also do that type of work. And again, my mentor, Amy Major, she's also fantastic at doing that work as well.
right. So let's just say, I mean, from what we've been talking to you about today, um, for me, I would just say, okay, yeah, I'm really interested in the spiritual counseling, because that's kind of what we've
Yeah,
done today. And I really
exactly.
dig the whole mode. So they go to start, that's START, sistersoflight.com.
That's correct.
And
That is correct.
that's where you're at. Okay.
Yes, and it's not mental health counseling, but it is, for folks who have, experienced some spiritual things and kind of want to get a better understanding. And so we connect people's guides, their healers, whoever's on their team to kind of figure out, and your soul. We'll talk to your soul to figure out what is the best course of action
Well,
to support you on your journey.
I think this has been perfectly said, perfect interview. You know what? It's not perfect. Jordan,
Nothing's
you'll
perfect.
you'll get that one. I mean, I know we've already discussed perfect, but this has gone so great today and so fluid, and there definitely is a power greater than myself working for me right now in this space, which I really needed before, as we had discussed. Because it's really weird when I have these shows, all kinds of shit happens before, and I'm like going, wow, and then, and, look at me now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just so much better. And I'm just really grateful that you did come on today. Like an hour and a half ago, I was like, oh my God.
It's very oftentimes when I'm speaking about anything that's involving people being able to step into their personal power and take authority of themselves, their space, their energy, things go wonky because there are going to be energies that don't want you to know this information because that's how they keep you vulnerable.
Well, they stayed
So
away
we
from
set our
us.
boundaries.
You know what? They stayed away from us today because
Yep.
this is a fabulous interview with you. And I mean, you're welcome anytime you want. And I want to let everyone know out there that, please visit startsisters.com. Jordan's awesome. Okay. I'm an old lady. She's really young. Um, I can't believe the
Spirit
knowledge.
World said they wanted me to be around as long as I could doing this work, so they put me in young. They said we're working you to the day you die, so you
Oh,
got a lot.
God. Help you. Help you.
I'm
My
here for a
God.
long time.
Anyways, everybody out there, I know you're going to be able to get something out of this. And I just really appreciate you watching. And I am going to say thank you so much, my expert, okay, that we have here. Anyone have any questions, send them to her, send them to me. And I really hate to say goodbye, but we're gonna have to speak another time. And thank you so much, Jordan.
Thank you for having me, and until next time.
Yeah. Bye.